Man conquers the world by conquering himself. The Stoics lived by that idea, not through empty words, but through daily practice. Confidence, to them, wasn't something you were born with. It was something you built. Brick by brick. Decision by decision. Thought by thought. And in today's chaotic world, filled with distractions, comparisons, and fake personas, their wisdom is more powerful than ever. This video gives you exactly what you came for: 7 real ways to build unstoppable confidence, grounded in Stoicism and proven through timeless psychological truths. Watch until the very end. Every chapter stacks on the next. Like. Subscribe. Share your story in the comments. Let's grow together. Chapter 1. Stop comparing yourself. Confidence begins to crumble the moment you start measuring your life against someone else's. It's not just a feeling, it's a psychological shift that erodes your self-respect from within. The ancient Stoics understood this truth intimately. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, a Roman emperor who had everything the world could offer, armies, influence, and respect, still had to remind himself daily not to compare his journey to others. In his private writings, he told himself not to envy, not to look outward, but to return inward. That alone should tell you something. If the Emperor of Rome had to resist the temptation of comparison, what chance do the rest of us have if we're not mindful? We live in a culture that runs on comparison. It thrives on showing us what we lack instead of what we have. Every scroll on social media is a subtle nudge saying, you should be doing more. You should look better. You should be richer. And it's exhausting. You don't notice it right away, but over time, this silent competition eats away at your confidence. You begin to question your pace. You wonder if you're falling behind. You stop celebrating your wins because someone else's win looks shinier. But here's the truth, you're not behind. You're on your path. And your path doesn't have to look like anyone else's. The Stoics taught that comparison is a distraction from virtue. It pulls you out of the present moment and locks you into a narrative that doesn't serve your growth. Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. That includes the want to impress, the want to compete unnecessarily, the want to win a race you were never meant to run. Comparison is not just about status, it's about identity. When you compare, you start shaping your identity based on other people's achievements. And when that happens, your values get replaced by their values. Your goals start to reflect their priorities. You lose touch with your own mission. That's a dangerous place to be because it means you could achieve everything you set out to do and still feel empty because none of it was truly yours. Instead, take a different path. A Stoic path. One that says, my timeline is not yours. My progress is not yours. My worth is not up for debate. This is a radical form of self-respect. It means choosing to be content, not complacent. It means being hungry to grow without being desperate to compete. It means taking pride in your slow days, your invisible victories, your quiet development. Gratitude plays a major role in this. Because when you start to truly appreciate what you have, your talents, your health, your mindset, you stop looking outward for proof of your value. You stop chasing applause and start walking in purpose. Gratitude grounds you. It reminds you that you're already rich in ways most people overlook. Confidence doesn't come from looking better than someone else. It comes from knowing you're better than you were yesterday. It comes from building something real, step by step, rooted in your own values and desires. And that type of confidence? That's unshakable. That's the kind of power no one can take away from you. When you stop comparing, you start honoring your truth. You take back your energy. You stop draining yourself by watching someone else's journey and you start fueling your own. You become focused, disciplined, alive. You walk your path with clarity, with courage, with calm. And in doing so, you unlock a deeper kind of freedom, the freedom to be exactly who you are, without apology. So next time you catch yourself drifting into comparison, remember, the world doesn't need another copy. It needs your original, unfiltered, grounded presence. That's where confidence lives. That's where you start to win, not by beating others, but by being yourself without shame. Chapter 2. Make yourself happy. A man who can't make himself happy is a slave to whatever, or whoever, can. Let that land for a second. If your sense of joy depends on a woman, a paycheck, a like, or a weekend escape, you're not in control. You're being controlled. And that's not confidence. That's quiet desperation wearing a mask. The Stoics were warriors of the inner world. They weren't cold or numb, they were precise. They knew that your emotions must be trained like a soldier, not left to the chaos of the outside world. And they understood a truth that most modern men forget: your happiness is your responsibility, and yours alone. Look around. Most people are outsourcing their joy like it's a subscription service. They're trying to buy it with money they don't have, impress people they don't like, or beg for it in relationships that barely satisfy their soul. That's not strength. That's emotional poverty. You scroll social media and convince yourself that the next trip, the next body, the next girlfriend, the next car will finally make you feel whole. But here's the kicker: it never lasts. Because real peace can't be bought. It's not out there. It's inside you. And until you learn how to mine it from within, you'll always be chasing ghosts. The Stoics believed in eudaimonia, a deep, unshakable form of fulfillment that comes from living in accordance with reason, purpose, and virtue. Not from pleasure. Not from applause. But from self-respect. From alignment. From knowing that you're building a life based on principles, not impulses. And when you start living like that, when your joy becomes something you create, not consume, you become dangerous. Because now no one can dangle your happiness like a carrot in front of you. You can walk away from anything, anyone, anytime, and still be whole. That's real power. But most men never get there. Why? Because they're afraid to sit with themselves. They run from silence. They drown in distractions. And they confuse stimulation for joy. They confuse comfort for fulfillment. And in doing so, they lose themselves. A Stoic man flips the script. He's not afraid to sit in a room with no noise, no entertainment, no external validation, and just be. He asks, what brings me peace when the world is loud? What fills my soul when the lights go off and the mask drops? And if the answer is nothing, he doesn't panic, he builds it. This is the internal work no one teaches you growing up. The work of discovering your core. Not your job. Not your image. Not your relationship status. Your core. What kind of man are you when no one's watching? What rituals keep your mind sharp and your heart full? What small acts of integrity flood your nervous system with pride? What pursuits make time disappear and anxiety dissolve? That's where confidence is born. Not from hype. From harmony. And here's the thing, happiness doesn't always feel like fireworks. Sometimes it's subtle. It's that deep breath after a hard workout. That clarity after journaling. That calm after finally doing the thing you've been avoiding. It's found in discipline. In progress. In small, quiet victories. The Stoics weren't chasing highs, they were cultivating stability. That's what separates boys from men. The boy needs the world to excite him. The man creates meaning. The boy needs permission to feel good. The man gives it to himself. So ask yourself this: do you wait for happiness to arrive, or do you engineer it? Do you numb yourself with pleasure, or nourish yourself with purpose? Every time you choose the latter, you carve out another inch of unshakable self-worth. Every time you take joy into your own hands, you step closer to freedom. Because once your peace can't be stolen, neither can your identity. You stop negotiating your value. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing loss, because you no longer rely on the external to complete you. That's what the Stoics mastered. And it's what you must master if you want to live with true confidence. You don't need to wait for life to be perfect. You don't need anyone to love you back. You don't need the world to give you permission. You need to stop waiting and start building. Create rituals that ground you. Chase passions that challenge you. Invest in habits that sharpen you. And above all, become the kind of man who brings his own weather. Storm outside, peace within. Because when you can make yourself happy, truly happy, you become untouchable. And the world starts to follow your lead. Chapter 3. Stop caring what everyone thinks. Confidence isn't loud, it's immune. Immune to gossip, immune to side eyes, immune to the quiet judgments whispered behind your back. The Stoics didn't chase validation. They trained themselves to walk through the fire of criticism without flinching. Epictetus nailed it with one sentence: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. Let that sink in. That one line dismantles the entire modern disease of people-pleasing. Because here's the uncomfortable truth: the fear of looking stupid is what keeps most men stuck in mediocrity. You don't speak your truth. You don't go after what you want. You water yourself down to be palatable for a crowd that doesn't even care. Think about it. How much of your life has been shaped by trying to impress people who won't remember your name in 5 years? You bite your tongue at work. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You scroll social media, comparing yourself to people who are faking confidence just like you. All because you're addicted to being liked. But here's the psychological trap: the more you seek approval, the less you get it. People don't admire the man who panders. They admire the man who doesn't need them. Because that man is rare. He's grounded. He's dangerous. He's free. Confidence begins the moment you stop asking for permission to be yourself. It sharpens every time you say what you actually think instead of what's safe. It grows stronger every time you disappoint someone by staying in integrity. And here's what most men don't realize: the cost of people-pleasing isn't just your voice, it's your life. You become a watered-down version of yourself. You delay your goals. You censor your creativity. You bury your instincts under layers of approval chasing. That's not confidence. That's quiet self-betrayal. The Stoics trained for this. They practiced indifference to public opinion like it was a skill, because it is. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people's opinions are fleeting, rooted in their own issues, and almost always irrelevant. You want to walk into a room and feel untouchable. Stop giving a damn about what people might think. Most of them are too wrapped up in their own insecurities to care about yours. And even if they do judge you, so what? Are they feeding you? Funding you? Fighting for you? If not, their opinion has no weight. Let's break it down deeper. Psychologically, caring too much about others' approval comes from fear: fear of rejection, fear of isolation, fear of failure. But that fear is rooted in a false belief that you need everyone to like you to survive. That might have been true in tribal days. Not anymore. you can build your own tribe. You can surround yourself with people who respect truth, not performance. But first, you have to get brutally honest with yourself. Ask, am I living for myself or for some invisible audience that doesn't even clap? When you stop performing, you start living. You walk different. Not because you're trying to look confident, but because you are confident. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to flex. Your energy speaks for you. People feel when a man is at peace with himself. And they either respect it or get uncomfortable. Either way, it's not your problem. That's the power of Stoic confidence. It's not about being liked. It's about being unchangeable. You don't bend to trends. You don't chase attention. You become your own reference point. The reality is, most people are afraid to be seen as different. But every powerful man you admire, every leader, artist, warrior, thinker, they were willing to look foolish before they looked iconic. They were laughed at, mocked, ignored, and they kept going. That's what made them unstoppable. You want that level of confidence? You have to be willing to be misunderstood, to be talked about, to be rejected. That's the price. But once you pay it, you become free in a way most men never taste. So here's the move: kill the need to be liked. Starve it. Replace it with the need to be real, to be honest, to be true. Every time you say what you actually think, you take your power back. Every time you act in alignment with your values, you build unshakable self-respect. And self-respect is the fuel of real confidence. Not compliments. Not likes. Not claps. Stop asking, what will they think of me? And start asking, what do I think of me? That question changes everything. Because when your approval comes from within, you become a fortress. Untouchable. Stoic. And suddenly, the opinions of others don't just lose power, they become a relevant noise in the background of your life. That's when you know you've made it. Not when the world applauds you, but when you no longer need it to. Chapter 4. Take care of yourself. Confidence is physical. It's not just a mindset, it's a state. You don't just generate confidence in your head through mental tricks. You embody it. You breathe it. You move with it. And that starts in the way you treat your body. The Stoics weren't soft. They trained themselves mentally, yes, but they also knew the body was the foundation. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, trained daily. He didn't separate philosophy from discipline. Because you cannot live like a slob and think like a king. Your posture, your energy, your clarity, all of that is influenced by how you care for your body. Want to feel more confident? Start with the simple, unsexy things. Brush your teeth with precision. Trim your nails. Take cold showers. Keep your room clean. Train your body, not because you're chasing aesthetics, but because it makes you feel capable. It makes you walk taller. When you move your body, you shift your brain chemistry. That's not a theory, it's biology. Dopamine, endorphins, testosterone, these are not just fitness hormones. They're confidence chemicals. When your system is flooded with them, you act like a leader. When they're low, you question yourself, hesitate, and spiral in self-doubt. Self-care isn't luxury. It's responsibility. You eat like garbage, you feel like garbage. You skip sleep, your willpower collapses. You avoid movement, and your mind gets soft, lazy, reactive. And yet, most men treat their body like an afterthought, and then they wonder why nothing in their life feels right. You don't need to be jacked. You don't need to be a pro athlete, but you do need to act like a man who respects his own vessel. That means movement every single day. That means clean fuel for your system. That means protecting your sleep like it's sacred, because it is. Without these fundamentals, your mind will betray you, no matter how much you read or meditate. And let's talk hygiene, because it matters. Confidence shows up in details. A clean, sharp man feels different. He looks in the mirror and sees someone worth respecting. And that image, reinforced daily, builds self-trust. It's not about vanity. It's about signaling to yourself, I give a damn. Because if you don't, why should anyone else? When you carry yourself like someone who values himself, other people mirror that. Women notice. Men notice. The world notices. But most importantly, you notice. And that internal signal is everything. You have to treat your body like your weapon. Sharpen it. Care for it. Learn how to fuel it, rest it, push it. These aren't shallow habits, they're anchors for deeper confidence. Every time you train when you don't feel like it, you send a signal to your brain, I do hard things. Every time you prioritize sleep instead of numbing out on your phone, you tell yourself, I matter. That repetition rewires your self-image. And over time, that self-image becomes bulletproof. Neglect is a silent killer. Most men fall apart slowly, not from one bad habit, but from thousands of small acts of self-abandonment. Skipping the gym once turns into a week. Ordering junk once becomes a default. Sleeping in one day turns into chronic fatigue. And suddenly, the body feels heavy. The mind feels foggy. The soul feels distant. But here's the good news, just like you slid into that place, you can climb out. One clean choice at a time. One walk. One stretch. One honest meal. These are votes for your future self. And every vote counts. The Stoics taught that your body is not your master, but it is your responsibility. You must rule it like a king rules his kingdom. With consistency. With intention. With respect. And that starts today, not tomorrow, not next Monday, not when you feel motivated. Confidence doesn't wait for motivation. Confidence creates it through action. When you treat your body well, your nervous system calms down. Your breathing slows. Your speech becomes clearer. You recover faster from setbacks, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Take care of yourself. Not just because you want to look better, but because you want to feel capable in your own skin. You want to be able to trust your body to show up when life throws punches. You want to walk into a room and know, deep down, that you've done the work physically, mentally, spiritually. That doesn't come from shortcuts. It comes from discipline, from effort, from repetition. You don't become confident by waiting for it. You become confident by doing confident things. And taking care of your body? That's one of the most powerful things you can do. So stop neglecting yourself. Get serious about your vessel. Get obsessed with how you fuel, move, and rest. Because when your body is strong, clean, and alert, your mind follows. Your confidence stops being a performance. It becomes who you are. So start today. Make your next breath intentional. Make your next meal clean. Make your next workout ruthless. And let your body carry you toward the man you were born to be. Chapter 5. Practice positive self-talk. Confidence is the story you tell yourself every single day. It's not something you get from the world, it's something you build in your own head. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology ever caught up. They didn't stand in front of mirrors whispering sugar-coated affirmations. They rewired their internal dialogue with discipline, clarity, and truth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That wasn't metaphor. That was instruction. If your thoughts are filled with self-loathing, your life will be too. And if your thoughts are rooted in strength, discipline, and rational self-respect, everything changes. Every man walks around with a voice in his head. A voice that either builds him or buries him. Most men? They let that voice become a weapon turned inward. You're not good enough. You always mess this up. You're too late to change. That voice becomes law. Not because it's true, but because it's repeated. You start to live according to it. You sabotage relationships because deep down you believe you're unworthy. You don't chase opportunities because some old script in your head says you're going to fail anyway. But here's the truth, that voice is trainable. You are not at the mercy of your thoughts. You direct them. Just like you train a body, you train a mind. And it starts with awareness. Start listening to your internal narrative. Is it constantly criticizing, blaming, fearing, doubting? That's not you. That's conditioning. And if you want confidence, you have to break that loop. Not with delusion, but with deliberate reprogramming. You replace the lies with something better, not nicer, but stronger. You don't tell yourself everything is fine when it isn't. You say, this is hard, but I can handle it. You don't pretend you're not afraid. You say, fear is resistance. And resistance is a sign I'm on the right path. You reframe, not to avoid pain, but to extract power from it. And that takes discipline. Mental representatives, you don't go to the gym once and expect to be strong. Same goes for your inner dialogue. You have to catch yourself every day. When you slip into "I'm not good enough," you stop. You challenge it. You replace it. You say, "I've been through worse. I'm not quitting now." When you hear, "I always mess this up," you respond with, "I'm improving. I'm not the man I was yesterday." Over time, those corrections add up. You're creating evidence for a new identity. And that identity starts to feel real. It becomes your baseline. You no longer need to force confidence, it starts showing up naturally. Your internal voice becomes your ally. Your inner world becomes a place of strength, not self-destruction. And that changes everything. Because when your mind respects you, your actions follow. You hold boundaries. You speak with clarity. You walk into rooms like you belong because your thoughts have already claimed that space before your body did. Real confidence doesn't come from hype. It comes from alignment. From having a voice inside you that isn't constantly tearing you down. And that's not something you wait for, it's something you train. Like the Stoics, you make it a daily ritual. You write it. You speak it. You confront the lies and replace them with truth. You hold yourself to a higher standard, especially in your thinking. Because the way you talk to yourself is the way you shape your reality. And most men have no idea how powerful that truth is. They walk around with decades of self-hate echoing in their skulls, and they wonder why life feels heavy. Why women pull away. Why they never step fully into who they could be. It's not fate. It's programming. And the good news? You can rewrite it. So start today. Start with just one voice correction. When you hear, "I can't," replace it with, "I'm becoming the man who can." When you hear, "I'll probably fail," replace it with, "I'll learn something either way." That's not delusion. That's strategy. You're creating a mindset that supports your growth instead of fighting it. And that mindset, brick by brick, becomes the foundation of real, bulletproof confidence. Remember this, you become what you say to yourself the most. So speak with intention. Speak like a man who respects himself. Speak like a warrior sharpening his sword, not a victim rehearsing his wounds. And soon enough, you won't have to fake confidence anymore. You'll be living it. Chapter 6. Face discomfort head-on. Avoiding discomfort is avoiding growth. And a man who avoids growth can never be confident, no matter how much he pretends. It doesn't matter how polished you look, how smart you sound, or how safe your life feels. If you constantly run from challenge, you're just decorating your own cage. The Stoics believed that discomfort wasn't something to avoid, it was something to embrace. In fact, Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." They didn't mean that poetically. They meant it literally. The thing you're avoiding, the fear, the pain, the hard conversation, the uncomfortable truth, that's the thing you need to face most. Because that's where your growth is hiding. That's where your confidence lives. And that's where your inner power is buried. Most men waste their lives tiptoeing around discomfort like it's something dangerous. But it's not. Discomfort is the gym for your spirit. The more you lift it, the stronger you get. Every moment you feel uncomfortable is a test, and most men fail it. They scroll. They distract. They run to porn, to comfort food, to excuses, to silence. But you know what happens? Their confidence dies. Quietly. Day by day. Death by 1,000 comforts. Think back. Think about how many times you've walked away from the very thing that could have transformed you. Maybe it was speaking up for yourself when someone disrespected you. Maybe it was asking for something you knew you deserved. Maybe it was taking a chance when everything in you screamed, "Play it safe." And after the moment passed, what did you feel? Regret. Shame. That tightening in your chest that says, "I should have done it." That's not weakness. That's your soul trying to wake you up. That's your inner fire screaming for a fight. Begging for a challenge. Begging to feel alive again. Because here's the truth, discomfort isn't your enemy. Discomfort is the training ground for greatness. And every time you lean into it instead of away from it, something changes. You stop flinching. You stop apologizing. You stop playing small. And you start building evidence, the same kind of evidence that builds unshakable confidence. You walk into the fire and you come out stronger. You speak your truth and you don't crumble. You face the unknown and you realize it didn't break you. It made you. But most men never get there. They wait for life to get easier before they step up. They wait to feel ready before they take action. And in that waiting, they rot. The Stoic path demands the opposite. It demands that you run toward the hard thing. It demands that you train your nervous system to stay calm in chaos. And it demands that you stop thinking confidence is something you're supposed to feel when it's actually something you earn. Confidence is forged. And like anything forged, it comes from heat. From pressure. From testing yourself again and again until you stop doubting what you're made of. That's why women respond to men who are fearless, not because of some fake alpha energy, but because real confidence radiates from a man who has been through fire and came out sharper. Opportunities come to you not because you chase them, but because you've proven to yourself that you can handle them. And life itself starts to open up, not because you were lucky, but because you were ready. So the next time you feel that fear rise in your chest, that tightening, that racing pulse, that urge to retreat, remember, this is your moment. This is the gateway. Walk toward it. Not recklessly. Not arrogantly, but willingly. Because on the other side of discomfort is the man you've been trying to become. And he's not waiting for you in your comfort zone. He's waiting in the fire. So go meet him there. Chapter 7. Keep your word to yourself. Confidence collapses every time you break a promise to yourself. It doesn't matter if the world sees you as disciplined, you know the truth. And that truth either builds you or quietly destroys you. The Stoics were ruthless about integrity. Not just with others, but especially with themselves. Because they knew the war for self-respect is fought in silence. Behind closed doors. In the small, forgettable moments when no one's looking. You can lift weights. You can read 100 books. You can even walk into a room and act like a man with his life together. But if you constantly abandon your own standards, your confidence is hollow. You can't fool your own soul. Every time you say, "I'll wake up early," and you don't, you chip away at the trust between your words and your actions. Every time you say, "This is the week I change," and then do nothing, you teach your nervous system that your goals don't mean much. And here's the catch: your brain remembers. Your body remembers. Whether you realize it or not, every broken promise becomes a quiet signal to your subconscious that you can't be trusted. And that's lethal to confidence. On the flip side, something powerful happens when you start keeping your word, especially the small ones. You build a track record. You build proof. It's not about perfection, it's about evidence. The man who gets up when he said he would. The man who makes the call he's been putting off. The man who honors his routine even when it's inconvenient. That man is building something unshakable. He's not waiting to feel confident. He's earning it. One choice at a time. Because real confidence isn't built on hype or external praise or some Instagram quote. It's built on knowing that when you say you'll do something, you actually will. Your mind starts to believe you. Your body starts to follow. And soon, other people feel it too. Not because you told them, but because you walk with the weight of a man who doesn't lie to himself. That's what the Stoics understood better than most. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And self-mastery doesn't come from controlling the world, it comes from controlling your own damn promises. From saying, "I'll do it," and doing it. Even when it's boring. Even when it's hard. Even when no one will ever know but you. So if your confidence feels weak, don't look outside. Don't blame the world. Look at your own patterns. Are you keeping your word? Or are you running from the version of you that actually demands more? Because if you can't count on you, why should anyone else? Start small. One promise. One action. One day. Stack the wins. Build the evidence. And keep going until your identity changes. That's where unshakable confidence lives, not in being perfect, but in becoming reliable. Especially when no one's watching. Because that's when it matters most. Confidence isn't some magical gift, it's a decision. A commitment. A way of life. The Stoics didn't wait around hoping for the world to validate them. They built their inner fortress, brick by mastering the mind, the body, and their daily actions. And now you've got the exact blueprint, 7 powerful shifts that realign you with that ancient, grounded strength. Now it's your turn. Start with one. Then the next. Stack your victories. Build your confidence through action, not talk. And remember, every time you choose the harder path, the one that sharpens you instead of softens you, you're becoming the man you were meant to be. So if this video lit a fire in you, hit the like button, it shows us you're part of this journey. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're not done. Not even close. Drop a comment below if one of these chapters hit you in the gut, or share your story. Your growth might be the spark someone else needs today. And above all, keep going. Quietly, powerfully, stoically. We'll see you in the next one.